So today, by popular request, we're going to talk about cold crashing. Apparently the cats are going to help. Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and you're watching City Steading. To learn to grow and brew, and to take control of your food, hit subscribe now, and look at the links found in the description below of all the multitudes of other places we can be located, where you can talk to us and talk to other people about growing and fermenting and brewing and canning and baking and pretty much everything that has to do with food.
Today, we're going to talk about cold crashing. It's a serious problem. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of people have been asking for this, and we didn't do a video on it because we were like, you put it in a cold place. That's the summation of cold crashing. But there's a little more to it than that. Derica actually went and typed up notes. So I'm going to let her start.
Alright, I don't really need the notes. I just did it in case we are like, what are you talking about?
What are we going to say now?
Because
we always run out of things to say. Actually, the first thing I want to go over is, when do you cold crash? Because this comes up a lot. You cold crash after primary fermentation. Now let me explain what primary fermentation means. Primary fermentation is the first bit of fermentation, okay? Just basically till that's just about done. You don't stop it in the middle to cold crash. You can for certain things we do. See, there's so many ways to do this.
I'm gonna just derail him entirely and say
It's easy to do.
don't do that. What you basically want to do is wait until fermentation is completely done.
Unless you're making my ginger beer.
Unless you're making ginger beer, and that's a different topic.
Right,
Because
see?
carbonation is a different topic together as well. This is basically how to clear a completely fermented, non-carbonated beverage. That's
simplest.
That's how
what
we're
cold
going
crashing is
to
for.
narrow our parameters for this discussion of cold crashing. Just because if we went through all the different variables of all the different brews that you can
Yeah, there's a million ways to do
homebrew,
things.
yeah, our heads would just explode.
But the basics of cold crashing is when you're done with primary fermentation, your hydrometer hasn't moved for like a week. You know, nothing's still fermenting.
The general consensus is if you take a hydrometer reading for 3 days in a row, and for those 3 days, those 3 consecutive days, each day that you do a hydrometer reading, if there was no movement, then you can safely assume that your fermentation is done.
I go a week.
Brian goes a week because he doesn't want to do it every day.
I just go a week in between 2 readings.
And it's all right. So once you verified, however process you choose to, that your fermentation is done, it is now time to cold crash. You have options, which is what Brian was getting to by jumping ahead there. You can either cold crash right in your primary fermentation vessel, or you can choose to rack it into a secondary primary fermentation vessel and then cold crash that vessel. That way you're taking any lease off that is already settled out and giving it all the space.
It doesn't make a lot of difference either way.
It doesn't.
In all truthfulness. Because if it's on lease now and you cold crash it, it's just going to flocculate more, which flocculate means to have stuff come out of solution and pack to the bottom.
Flocculating means group together. So all those particles group together, create nice little clusters, and they fall to the bottom.
Right. If you rack first and then do it, you're just going to have to rack again because now it's going to flocculate again. Either way, go for it. Whichever makes you feel better. Some people have asked, do you put an airlock when you're cold crashing? I actually don't, and here's why. They don't fit in my fridge. So I take the airlock out. Sometimes if it's a grommeted lid like this, I'll put a piece of plastic wrap over the cap, and then I'll put the lid on. That way I have a seal, but pressure can give out. I have a feeling just one little level of plastic wrap will pop long before anything. But I have not had them still fermenting. Other than ginger beer, which is a special exception. We were trying to stop fermentation before it got to a certain level to keep sweetness. It's kind of unusual to do that, so, take that as you will.
So, what do you need in order to cold crash? You're going to need something to cool your vessel in. So it needs to be at least the size that your vessel can fit in, thus the removal of the airlock for confined spaces. And ideally, you want it to stay at a regular temperature.
Consistent.
You don't want that temperature to fluctuate.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked about, can we put it outside? The only problem with that is if you keep it outside, if it drops to, say, 10 degrees at night, it might freeze, and 35 degrees during the day, now that's a big fluctuation. Even if your day temperature is like 40 and your nighttime temperature is 30, that's actually still a pretty big fluctuation. You can do it. I just don't know that I would. I would want to keep it more consistent than that. And I know some people have asked and I've said, oh yeah, sure, you can do that. But now that I'm really thinking about it, I don't think it's such a great idea. Try to find a fridge instead. Keep it just above freezing. I mean, they say like anywhere from 33 to 40 is considered normal. I have mine at like 34.
That is in Fahrenheit. So
oh yeah, that's Fahrenheit.
38 degrees Fahrenheit would equate to 3.333 Celsius. That is the most common temperature that you want for cold crashing.
Not 3.334. 3.333.
But it can range anywhere from 33 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 0.555 degrees Celsius, to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 4.444 degrees Celsius.
That's just confusing.
That was the biggest reason why I took these notes, because numbers are not my thing. I'm sure if you've watched our other videos, you've heard Brian just rattle off numbers and equations like it was no big deal, and I'm just like, what? My brain doesn't work that way. So, that is pretty much the concise thing for cold crashing.
That's as concise as we can get with it.
Why do we have these two vessels sitting here in front of us? Well,
we felt the need to show you cloudy versus clear.
This one is cloudy, as you can tell.
It's also not done.
By watching the little bubbles, and you might be hearing the bloop bloop. This one is still fermenting. It's got a ways to go, but this is a test subject. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
The label's back here. I'm totally staring at it.
We know what it is. You don't. But I'm sure there's some of you that actually do know what this is.
I haven't told anybody.
Because we know some people who've already done this.
Oh, yeah, but I didn't tell anybody. I did it.
So, once this test subject is done and we test it ourselves, if we are happy with it, we will be sharing it with you.
Oh, yeah.
This is cider.
This is actually my basic cider from a while back.
If you haven't seen that video, it's right there.
Notice how clear it is. Now you also might notice there's some sediment on the bottom. And that's because this was done when I just basically racked stuff off. I didn't really, I didn't do a lot of racking.
Right.
We just bottled stuff. So now I have a 2-rack rule, and that's a recent implementation. What that means is I'm going to rack everything twice. Well, not even everything, but most things. Wines and meads and stuff like that, I'm going to probably rack twice, unless I need them quickly. What that means is we'll rack it, let that settle up for a week or two, then rack it again. Now, usually after that first rack, I'm going to cold crash that for a little while and just see what happens. If they don't clear out or they don't do what I want them to do, then I'll just take them back out and it's fine. I'm not worried about it. But this is my cider, and if you notice, that is seriously crystal clear. And that's, I didn't add anything to it to make it do that. This didn't even get cold crashed. That was just time.
And that's another point. You don't have to cold crash. If your beverage cleared out on its own, yay. That's just one step you don't have to deal with now.
Another reason to cold crash is suspended animation. For instance, our Fruit Loops mead. This is a really great example of it. It started out as a natural fermentation, went to like 5%, and stopped. And I went, oh man. And I knew what it was. It was the yeast just couldn't go anymore. They just couldn't do it. There was more sugars than the yeast could handle. So we added some commercial yeast to it, and I was expecting it to go to like 11 or 12%, maintain some nice residual sweetness. And no, it went to 13% in just days, like 3-4 days. So I tested that, and well, it happened to happen at a time when I couldn't stop and rack it and take care of it, do what I needed to do. I contemplated pasteurizing it just to stop it right there. And I said, you know what, let's just cold crash this and see what happens. Cold crashed it, and that came out super clear. It sat in the cold crash for 2 weeks because I did not have time to get to it because we had to make a video on the next step. We just weren't ready for that yet. It wasn't in the schedule.
And so what he means by suspended animation is that when you chill, yeast to that temperature, they are going to go dormant. They're going to stop producing alcohol.
99.9% stopped.
Right. They're by no means dead.
Oh, yeah.
Once they come back up to temperature, they're going to kick right back.
You can freeze yeast and they're still not dead.
Right. So that's why we stressed at the beginning that you want to make sure that fermentation is completely done before you cold crash. Because if you cold crash and then you bottle and you think you're all good, but your fermentation is still going, any yeast that are still in solution, because there's no way to 100% get all of them out by cold crashing, can start re-fermenting, and you may end up with a bottle bomb.
Yeah, a few people in the group and several in the comments on various videos have thought, oh, this is as sweet as I want it now. I can just cold crash this and bottle it. No. No, if you bottle it, you're wrong. But here's one thing you can do. You can stop it right there, cold crash that ferment, right? They're going to go dormant. If you rack that or bottle it and keep it refrigerated, then you can. But it has to be kept very cold, because even at like 50 degrees, yeast can start working. A lot of lagers and things are actually made at low temperatures like that. So as long as you keep it really cold, it's all good. If you want to just pour off the fermenter, you can do that too. I'd be careful, please. But, you know. But that's the trick. As long as once you make it cold, if it stays cold, you're safe. But the second that gets back up to temperature, you have a problem. Okay?
So the basics are, if you have a cloudy beverage, it is done fermenting, you've done your test, then you're going to put it in a cold place that will stay at a steady temperature, and you want that temperature range to be between 33 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 0.55 Celsius, to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 4.444 Celsius. And that's it. How long do you keep it in there? That was one thing I didn't do.
A week or two.
Some people say a day or two to a week or two.
Yeah, it really depends, because some brews, I've put them in there overnight and they were done by the next day. Sometimes, like I have an apple wine going right now that I started that like over a month ago, okay? And it's a wine, so it's like an 11, 12%, 13%, something like that. And it didn't clear. Apple can sometimes be that way. So I took it and I let it sit for a couple weeks, didn't go anywhere. So I put it in the cold crash. It's been in there for 2 weeks now. I don't think it's cleared at all. It may never clear, and that's okay. But sometimes it'll be like overnight, other times a week, sometimes 2 weeks. And it's like the day you think you're going to take it out, wait one more day.
A quick note about clarity. Clarity, more often than not, has little to no effect on taste.
Doesn't mean
he has to bleep himself out now. Even in professional competitions, judges only
3 points out of 50.
A very small percentage of their score towards clarity. So it's pretty much just an aesthetics thing. I would prefer to drink something that looked like this than something that looked like this.
It's a rather modern idea too.
But honestly, if it doesn't bother you, don't worry about it. Just drink it and enjoy it. I hope you found this chat helpful. Give us a thumbs up. And
if you have any questions, feel free. Ask away in the comments. Find us in the group. We're happy to help. We thought this was kind of a simple topic. That's why you might hear some apprehension as we're talking, because we don't know what exactly people are thinking cold crashing is. It's actually just a very simple thing. As Lee said, we could have done this in 2 sentences and been done.
Thank you so much for watching.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you want to learn to grow and brew and take control of your food, hit the subscribe icon down below, and don't forget to hit that little bell. That way you get notified of everything we do. And if you really like what we do, consider becoming a patron. Information in the descriptions of all of our videos. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.